start with Milena Gartley from Tech Tour. And then we will move on to Filippo from the Irish Bioeconomy Foundation, and then Hepe from the Food and Bioeconomy Cluster, Denmark. If I can give an overview of the webinar, we will first go through an overview of the bioeconomy financing analysis as a work done for the Shaping Bio project, and Milena will walk us through all the details. Then Filippo will go through some practical examples and tips of how fund agri-food innovations in practice, and then from the Food Bio Cluster Denmark experience, we will have more success stories and a discussion. I will not give a very extensive intro to Brilliant this time, but I would like mostly to highlight a little bit the connection of why we needed to have a funding dedicated webinar for this project. As you may know, you may not know, that Brilliant wants to boost our communities and create a robust business model for them in order to create bigger opportunities and establish them in bioeconomies. So we tackle 3 different pilot sites, one in Denmark, one in Italy, one in Spain, each targeting different materials and crops. And from these crops, for example, from potato from Spain, in Italy we use sunflower, Carduna safflower, and in Denmark rapeseed. We want to produce in short value chains the most products possible. Very high-end products. It can be proteins, it can be packaging materials, it can be plastic, it can be biolubricants, it can be bioadhesives, so a very wide range of products. And we want these, ideally, to be also replicated, because the meaning of a project is not just to research for the research or just to keep it in one small area. It's just to spread the word and create more opportunities. And these opportunities often need funding. You need funding to expand operations, you need funding to adopt new technologies, to improve your sustainability, to navigate your climate changes and challenges. So all this is necessary. That's what we wanted to address to this webinar, is mostly how to navigate public funding, private investments, and all the pros and cons that come with that, and how you can amplify your possibilities of getting a good funding, and then of course hear from some success stories. So without further ado, I would move on to the speaker, Milena. I think, Milena, you want to share your screen. You prefer it that way. Milena is from Tech Tour and the Shaping Bio, and she will walk us through the bioeconomy financing analysis and will give us an overview of what is happening in Europe in terms of financing at the moment. Milena, the floor is yours. Let me know if I can support you. I think.
Okay, can you see my screen now? I'll put it in full screen mode. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be at this webinar. Thank you for inviting me, Anastasia, and thank you for having me, all of you who are listening and watching. I will start with some introduction, then I will explain the context and methodology of our bioeconomy financing analysis in 2 aspects, public and private financing. And at the end, I will elaborate a little bit on the conclusions and recommendations that we just started formulating for the project. So I'm also representing Tech Tour, which is a company that meets investors with innovation companies. Annually, we have more than 25 specialized programs that gather more than 1,000 of the most promising tech entrepreneurs and meet them with over 2,000 investors and corporate partners. So far, our alumni has raised nearly 34 billion euros. And of course, you're welcome to check our website. So straight to the bioeconomy financing analysis. First, about the context and methodology of shaping bio. It is a European Union finance project that lasts 3 years. We're in the last third of this project. We compile 10 partners from 9 countries, and the project coordinator is Fraunhofer ISI. What is shaping bio about? We at the beginning from the beginning we wanted to understand and inform and form an information basis for bioeconomy ecosystems across Europe. And apart from our bioeconomy financing analysis, there are analysis on policy and governance, applied R&D and technology transfer and collaboration. If you go to Shaping Bio website, resources, you can see most of these analyses implemented already and waiting for the European Commission approval. So how did we do this bioeconomy financing analysis? We used many resources, Shaping Bio resources, experts of the consortium. We formed a multi-actor group that is consisting of innovation companies, representatives of innovation companies, investors, and other stakeholders. And in broader sense, further, we engage other bioeconomy stakeholders that participated in our desk research, surveys, and interviews, co-creation workshops, and data research. We formed 2 topics that were of most interest on public financing and private financing. And after analyzing all the data, we produced this research publication on bioeconomy financing analysis. Why did we do this? Because we would like to elaborate further policy recommendations for change of the next bioeconomy strategy of the European Union. So just a small remark about there is, of course, the geographical aspect of this research. It was based on the European Innovation Scoreboard from 2023, because that's when our research started. We also explored public financing, more than 100 programs in various countries from all over European Union, and bioeconomy mapping in EU regions. These are separate publications, so you can have a look also at them if you would like more details on these studies. We used also data from over 3,800 financing rounds between 2021 and 2024. This is all reported data. This is important thing. And also we did interviews, surveys, desk research, and we engage along the way the multi-actor group, about 12 highly distinguished experts in bioeconomy, investors, SMEs, and intermediaries. So I will go quickly over public financing. You can see more data about it in our publication. I think that it would be more interesting to elaborate more on private financing, but about that later. So we explored the cluster 6 of Horizon Europe, how it was implemented, what is the access of companies to all these programs that are devoted to bioeconomy. And we found out that actually for cluster 6, 458 were only private sector SMEs of nearly over 3,000 entities that received funding by cluster 6. It is, of course, it is better. The share of the companies participating is better in the EIC programs. We see nearly 2/3 of of the participants, or those who received funding, were private companies. So you can see also distribution, how from emerging to strong to innovation leaders who obtained and the amount also of the obtained financing. So when we go to public funding at national and regional level, you can see that the national programs for bioeconomy, around 1/5 of them have dedicated programs for bioeconomy, but that is not a hindrance, not at all, because a lot of good performance across the EU bioeconomy landscape, they don't have dedicated to the bioeconomy strategies or programs, but they are performing very well. We assume that this is because these programs that are more generalist provide business support to the companies in terms of business modeling, investment readiness, etc. So if you see the split of the measures that are with which the companies are being supported in at national or regional level, you can see that we have various measures: networking, training, mobility, grants for industrial R&D, fiscal measures as well, and support for public research, as well as information and brokerage information. So moderate innovators, you will see later during my private financing presentation, you will see that moderate innovators and strong innovators as well, they have they perform better in bioeconomy. Maybe it is because information and brokerage information is very much delivered to their stakeholders. So this is very briefly about public financing, and I'm going now to the private financing analysis. Again, I would like to emphasize that the data from over 3,800 financing rounds was reported data, and also I need to point out that taxonomy very often is not very clear. What do we qualify as a bioeconomy technology? This is sometimes this is a little bit controversial, so please bear in mind that these are the limitations of our data and of our study. So what are the sectors of the bioeconomy rounds that we explored? The majority of these rounds are in 5 industries: waste and water management, agriculture, biotech, food, clean energy, and biofuels. When I say biotech, it's excluding red biotech, which means medical and pharmaceutical. So you can see also the split of each industry that amongst the innovation ecosystems, from emerging to lead innovators. You can see that only moderate and strong innovators in our study, in the reported deals that we explored, are notable in textiles, but textiles are less than 1% of the overall industry share. So who are the investors in the European bioeconomy? If we see the proportion by number of rounds, the investment funds dominate with 70% share, and there is also share of corporate and angel investors. From the other types of investment, there is crowdfunding and government and non-profit, in total coming to around 7%. So who are also the investors by geography? Here they are by number of rounds. Please remember this because, excuse me, please, because on the next slide you will see what is the proportion by the amount of raised, the raised amounts. Excuse me, please. So by number of rounds, the European Union dominates, and you can see the split amongst the innovators in the European Union in the smaller graph. The innovation and leaders and strong innovators, the most investors, the most rounds were financed by strong and innovation leaders. There are also around 15% of moderate innovators, and it is very good news that we have also investors from emerging countries, from emerging ecosystems. So when it comes to the financing amounts, then the European investors and non-EU investors, it is the other way around. The rest of the world provides the money from around 70%, and excuse me, and this is the we think that this is due to the fact that probably investors from outside Europe invest in more mature companies where the amounts are significantly higher for each deal. So what is the situation at early stage financing, private financing? We see that we can see that the lead innovators, as they're qualified by the European Innovation Scoreboard, are not always the highest performers. For example, if you see to the right on by number of rounds, the moderate and strong innovators are dominating in investments in seed. And also look at the proportion of the emerging innovators in seed, which means that they are emerging, and we are expecting a very intensive development in that direction. So all deals, you can see the proportion here, why this graph is important. It is because we can see the proportion of a number of deals and total raised amounts. In the emerging innovators, we see that we have a lot of deals proportionately, and the amount of each deal is comparatively smaller, especially with strong and lead innovators. In strong and lead innovators, the proportionate sum of each deal is more or less the same, with the most number of deals and the total raised amounts being in the strong innovators. And we also explored what is the part of women company founders and co-founders. About more than a quarter of those of those deals who were reported in deal room, their founders did not report their sex. About 12% of the founders and co-founders are women reported, and male about 62%, and less than 1% chose none of the options. So this is my presentation about private financing. And I'm going to elaborate a little bit on our recommendations. This analysis has been um, um, the basis for us to elaborate recommendations. They are not fully elaborated yet. It is due by the end of this project, by the end of Shaping Bio. But we identified, if you read the whole publication, you will see also there we elaborated on gaps. We also elaborated on case studies, best practices, and we identified 8 gaps. We formulated some solutions to them. This is a very, very first notion. They will be modified further closer to the end of the project, so we can provide sound recommendations with action points. Actually, on the 20th of March, we have a workshop that is engaging only SMEs who will help us formulate clearer recommendations and action points for the update of the bioeconomy strategy of the European Union. And this is one, to me, curious thing. When we had the interviews and surveys, I allowed myself to ask them, what is the question that you would like to be asked, but you were never asked in regards with private financing, with public programs, etc. And they said, actually, we are happy that we are asked any question, because not very often the SMEs are being asked about their needs, their struggles, and so on. So some food for thought. We're going to hear from them very soon. And you can see more on the bioeconomy financing in Europe analysis at this link, and I will later answer your questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Milena, for the insights and all the analysis. I know that it's a very, very extensive work that you're doing. And to be honest, I would like to see more the connection, because I see some interesting numbers. I see that most of the funding goes for food, goes for agriculture. It's within the main sectors that are being financed, which is very, very close to brilliant. And we will certainly get back to the gaps that you identified, because I see some interesting topics that we could discuss afterwards. Okay, thank you very, very much, Milena. And I would kindly ask you to keep all the questions and note them down. You can even write them down on the chat, and we will address them once we get to the Q&A session. And with that, to the next speaker, which is Filippo. Welcome, Filippo, from the Irish Bioeconomy Foundation. I will let you do the introductions, and we're very, very interested in what you have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And first of all, thanks for the invite. It is a pleasure to speaking here today and after the very informative presentation by Milena. I will be, first of all, introducing myself and then diving into the topic. Myself, it's Filippo here. I'm the former Chief Executive Officer of the Irish Bioeconomy Foundation, and with them as European Ambassador. I'm also coordinating a number of European projects and initiatives, in particular Bioeconomy Ventures, which was all about matchmaking startups with investors. So hands-on support to matchmaking people looking for investments with investors. We had 46 pitching events all around and the other activities. We are involved in a number of initiatives, and I will not be focusing on listing them now, but rather trying to focus on a number of practical insights into how to access public funding and how to access private investments for people operating in the agri-food industry, being like actually food tech or simply not using the modern terms, but having been in business for long or seeking to enter the business. So with regards to the grants, I will be going through what's the good and the ugly about European grants. And about investments, I will be mostly focusing on reassuring people that it's actually less complicated than it looks, but it comes with very peculiar terms. And the main bottleneck is to get and the semantic goes back to solutions. So it uses strange terms, it uses strange methods, but if the business is good, it will be funded and financed in a way. So without further ado, I will be going into the grant side. Okay. So of course, a lot of people like grants, and there's a number of reasons why you should. It's not like an investment, it's not equity that you have to either return it or give away part of your company. It's not debt that you have to pay interest on. You do not actually have to give it back unless you do something very bad, really to de-risk your investment cost operation, because you're doing something, or you're doing something following within the policy priority. If you are an entrepreneur in agri-food and you want to deploy new technology, scale it up, or apply an existing technology into your field with significant impact, this is really your opportunity to do so. So this is on the positives, but no positive comes without negatives, and we should never hide that grants, especially if they're European, but often so if they're national, they're very complex to manage, to acquire, they're time consuming, they will demand time. And for me, when I speak with entrepreneurs, I tell them, listen, you're not paying an interest, you're not giving away a share of your company. Your cost of capital is the time that you will sacrifice to deal with it. But importantly, and not to be underestimated, its grants often so interfere with your business focus, and they interfere with your ability to steer your business here and there. When something is written in a contract with the funding body, being that the grant agreement of European or national level, you cannot really change it that easily. You can change it, but it's going to be very difficult to change. So it will interfere with your focus. It will start to drag you in. So if you want somebody to give you money for you to do the things you wish, you have to take into account that it will cost you time and focus. Having talked about the good and the bad, there is also the ugly side. The acquisition of European grants. So the good and bad of having them, but the ugly if you want them. It will take you 3 to 5 months of work to get a European grant. And the time to grant can be up to 12 months from when you start to when you end. Luckily, there are initiatives that provide cascade funding. That means that they took the butter to go for the bigger pie, and then they segmented the pie into smaller pieces that you can apply to. So it's not that it has to be 12 months path to grant, but it is months and months and months. It's not weeks. Okay. Furthermore, it's all about not you. It's not about the innovator. It's about the funding body. What does the funding body want from you? What are their priorities? What are the challenges that they want to meet for their common good or for their own focus area? And how can you serve those needs? So the story, it's all about what you can do for them. So often so for entrepreneurs, there's a bit of a struggle. People may have the attitude of saying, okay, why are people not helping me? Why I can't get those grants? Why are they not coming to me? No, it's all about what can you do for Europe? What can you do for your country? What can you do for this specific subject matter? There will be often cases that you have to incur an extra cost and extra work that you may not want to do otherwise. And this is part of the game. So you will be paid to deliver jobs which is matching your strategy, and part of which that is not matching your. So keep that in mind. Now, without being a pessimist, as myself, I've been involved in tens and tens of projects and over 250 million euros of European grants. They come with a success chance. So never forget, whenever you apply for funding, there is a success chance. And this success chance, it's almost never, and we say this to members, clients, to partners, it's almost never above 50%. Most grants come at around 10% success chance. Some are even lower, but you have to be aware, and if this information is not public, which in most cases is public, so it's just keep it hidden, you should get it before you apply. If you are a bigger business especially, or if you are a smaller business that is going to invest a lot into it, inform yourself on the statistics, because there is a lottery component into that. As long as you're aware, you will be having fair chance to not be drastically disappointed. Having said this, in practice and focusing on the subject matter of this webinar, so agri-food, innovators and practitioners, there are a number of grants that are really spot on or potentially spot on, or have the opportunity to be so. And these are the Horizon Europe section, Cluster 6, which is all about agri-food. There are several examples of grants here. Another one, in addition to the Horizon Cluster 6, is the CBEJU, which is slightly on the more on the processing side. So it's all about biorefinery or bioconversion. But almost all it does is about conversion of agri-food and forestry and marine, so strong link. And those will be funding projects that go from 1 million euro to 20 million euro grant, associated with a cost of up to 50 million euro. There, the refund rate, so how much euros you will be getting for the euro that you spend, they vary from 60 to 100%, or to be less precise but more useful, I'll say from 50% to 125%, depending how you. And every program comes with its own financial rules, and you have to build a little bit of calculation for that. But in practice, imagine 50% to slightly above 100. Another program that is interesting for agri-food that is often so neglected is called the LIFE program. This program is mostly about biodiversity, as one can call it. It's often so about swamps and birds, but in fact, it has a lot of support processors. If you have a new technology to process side streams, agricultural residues, to upcycle or recycle, there is many cases of success there, and we know of success on agri-food side stream there. So, okay, so these are in practice some 3 very interesting programs, and other one to keep an eye on is, by its nature, the EAT Food Community. That is not only a funding body, but it's also an innovation ecosystem. It's a little bit complicated. They're doing many things for many people, acting both as a funding body and as an association and as a facilitator at the same time by mission. So it's advisable to first have a chat with people operating in the sector before doing so. But it is worth exploring. I'm happy to have conversations about that. We have been many years involved there. Okay, I will not finish on the grants without mentioning the most famous of the grant, which also happens to be my least favorite grant in Europe. That is the famous EIC Accelerator. It's a great program where, by reading it, you will really see that your dreams perfectly resonate with what they want to do, to deploy new technologies, grow them. But also everybody else's dreams resonate with it. So the actual success chances there are around 1%. So it is the most competitive, if not one of the most competitive. So to be handled with care, it is the most famous, is the one that you're more likely to hear about. So be careful. It doesn't mean that you cannot go, but be mindful of the success chances. To conclude on the grants and speeding up a little bit on the private investments, conclude on grants. Everybody wants the grants. They come with string attached. They are a great potential for you to boost your growth. You're also paying a lot of taxes, so it's not bad if you deserve it to get some of those taxes back as grants, but they are helpful about it. Okay, so this is from my side in 5-7 minutes. Summarizing 10 years in European grants and several tens of cases, successful and not. I'm happy to have conversations with the audience about it here now or later. Now, I don't know exactly how many minutes I have, but I will now move to the private investment site and try to do something similar on that field. If the organizers can let me know how many minutes I have, I will also adjust speed accordingly.
You have plenty of time, Filippo. You have until 11. And now
very
it's
good. Very good.
42.
Well done.
You're free to go ahead.
Very good, very good. So good. So on the topic of investments, being those equity, debt, or options, or whatever they are, we're speaking about capital being injected into the business, either in a variety of forms, in exchange for you to give the ability to achieve certain goals. So in principle and theoretically, you can have a look to investment with a similar lens as grants. but the returns are very different. We're talking about financial returns expected by the investors. The first thing I would like to do on investment is to go a little bit about some terms. This, for me, was the biggest barrier to start dealing with investments and investors and the ecosystem, then the way they speak about things. So we know the word investor, it's that person that commit capital toward a certain endeavor to receive to the aim and hope to receive a financial return. In most cases, it's actually not their money. It's often structured around a general partner or general partnership that manages a fund, and this fund is mostly delivered or enabled by limited partners or LP. So one thing often heard is LP. I'm not sure if LP will allow me to invest into you. Okay, so limited partners, those are essentially the sources of the funds that then the investor will deploy. An investor may have an investment thesis, that is what they want to invest into in terms of scale, sector, geography, and other parameters, but the investor themselves have different investment funds, and each investment fund may have a different thesis or intention. Okay, so investor gets the money from the LP, packages the money into investment funds or vehicles. Each investor and investment vehicle has their own thesis. It's not really about how beautiful you are or how beautiful your idea is or how impactful and possible it is. Often so, it's about the compatibility between what you do and what they're looking for. So there is a significant degree of matchmaking chances and compatibility chances that you have to look into. The investors, whatever their type is, they will be looking for returns, so money to be paid back to them, either with dividend or with interest, or most commonly with an exit. So you're trying to convince people to enter into your business while they are seeking an exit. The first thing that you have to tell them, or the second, come visit me, there is the exit door. They always want to know where is the exit. Okay, they may be there for the long run, but there has to be exit options. Typically this is selling to another investor, or yourself buying them out, or going in the publicly traded stock market or the so-called IPO. Okay, there will be additional criteria for investors. It's not about only those, but that's the crucial. Often so you hear about today, impact investors. What is your societal impact, and according to their specific metrics? More on the jargon. One of the things that we observed is the use of vertical. So they will be speaking, we're not in our vertical. Vertical is nothing but subsector and sector. The investment stage, pre-seed, seed, Series A, B, C, it comes with letters. There are other, well, it's an E, etc. Pretty much pre-seed is if you have not received yet significant amount of money. Seed is when you have had your first round of structured investment. You can skip those and go for bigger. One interesting thing is that Series A, B, C does not mean a specific amount of money. So it is industry specific and geography specific. Whenever you hear a person saying, we want to invest in Series A, or whenever you hear a person saying, we're seeking our Series A investment, you have to ask how much, because it can mean different things depending on the industry, and it does. 10 times difference, 20 times difference between if you are IT solutions for agriculture, or hardware solutions for agriculture, or food processing, food upgrading, market launching, totally different endeavors. We already spoke about investment thesis. One key term, which besides the meaning of it, it's actually crucial in addition to exit, to have a chance to deal with investors, is traction. Traction is the evidence of the fact that somebody cares, but not just somebody, anybody, somebody who actually has the chance to impact on the market. So traction is evidence, proven, written, signed evidence that somebody is buying your product or is committed to buy your product if you make it after you raise the investment, or is interested in exploring further what you're doing, or sort of likes you a little bit. So there's different levels of traction evidence, from letter of commitment to joint development agreement to actual sales or pre-orders or options to buy. These are all evidence of traction. Whenever irrespective of how abstract and crazy your idea can seem to be, if you have evidence of traction, that idea has a fair chance of becoming reality. Convince the market to convince the investors, and you should be convincing on things that you don't have yet. Otherwise, you will not be looking for the investment, but still, you can prove that somebody would be interested if they're, okay? Investments often are defined as a size, and you will hear investors speaking about ticket size. Ticket size is nothing but the dimension of the investment that they're trying to do, or the ranges that are compatible with their approach. For some investors, too small, not good. For some investors, too big, not good, or any possible permutation of this. So ticket size is nothing but how much money, the package they're looking for a single investment. Deal flow is more of an internal, the internal term for them is their ability to access a number of companies for them to see and evaluate, and companies such as a number of facilitators are actually great for investors because they enable them to have access to a high range, and clusters also function crucially to that end. Finally, on the term, again, here is a term, but it's also a logical element, an important element. We were speaking about investors earlier and investment funds. They're vehicles to make investment. Each investment fund has a certain life cycle. They are born, they do something, and then they go on retirement. Now, the fund will have clear phases where money is put in, money goes out, and they watch the money that went out and see how it performs. This is the fund maturity. Even if an investor is perfect for you, even if their fund seems to click perfectly, you may still have doors slammed on your face saying, sorry, not interested. And because they're receiving thousands of applications, they actually don't often give you proper feedback if they can't, or many do, many don't. Fund maturity is often either reason for not receiving an investment. You may be perfect for them, but you're coming a little bit too late, whereby they only have a few more years, not to make their investments, but to make investments and then exit to those investments after a few years. So if you come too late in their cycle, you're likely not to be able to be accepted unless your exit is very fast to be deployed. Now, this is a lot of information. One thing that helps to navigate this ecosystem, paying those for the investment in particular, also for the grants, is to reach out locally to your nonprofit association or support hub, such as cluster. Bioeconomy Foundation of Ireland covers Ireland, but there are clusters all around Europe. And the majority of them are now even together in a European Bioeconomy Cluster Alliance. But where there are no clusters, or there is a specific need for a special assistance, there are projects and initiatives, and such as the one that you're participating to a workshop of now, gathered to support a certain sector. And you're always encouraged to reach out to projects and clusters and associations that are active in the sector. They will provide you some free guidance. Most people there will be paid to spend some time to provide you some guidance. I said at the beginning that I've been involved in many. There are many, and the organizers will mention, I'm sure, a few of other initiatives. From our side, we're now active in 4 or 5 on the private investment side. Of particular relevance is Copilot, which is focused on scale up. So agri-food business looking for scale up their technologies, and as a component of financing, which we follow. Or, for example, the Boost for BioEast, which is focused on supporting Eastern Europeans' endeavors source capital, or at least that's our role within. And there is also some other initiatives, such as the BioInvest Europe initiative, which is a public-private one as a component of profit, and seeks to support there as well. So there is an ecosystem of support. Just check out. The people there are mostly interested in helping, and it's just a shame not to make use of it, because most of these initiatives, at a certain point, they finish, we better get use of them as long as they're around. And I'm happy also to be made use of as long as I'm around at the end of this workshop to answer some questions if there are any. And having said this, I think maybe 5 minutes earlier than expected, I'm already ready to hand over to Jeppe or to take questions now if Jeppe needs some time, whichever the moderator prefers.
Thank you very much, people, for the thorough analysis and for the tips. That this would actually be my question, because yes, it's very much interesting information, but somebody might ask, okay, how do I fit in all of this? And if a specific investor has a very narrow window of proposals that he would like to receive, how can I know that I fit this window and how do I apply? So it's not just, finding the right people, but it's also about the whole process. It's how I prepare myself, what they want to hear from me if we're talking about investors. So there's a lot to prepare, but there are also very many opportunities as you introduced. So there are always people who can guide you. So thank you very much. I don't know if you are ready.
Yes, and I'm listening to, and maybe for everybody to understand, we put this together only recently, and we thought it would make sense to start with Milena and then go on to Filippo and then ending with me, and it makes even more sense now that we're doing it live. So I'm really happy to spend some time now also being again even more concrete. So we started in the helicopter with Milena, and it was also interesting for me, Milena, to understand a bit more all the details in that area. I hadn't delved into that report. I certainly will do now. Because that sets the scene very much to the environment we're in, and where more and more investments need to be made in this agro food area, definitely. And it's very interesting to see the balance or the missing balance some ways here. So shape and bio is really important in trying to give more investments in this area. And Filippo, I was nodding all the way through to what you were saying. I was absolutely agreeing to everything. We see this every day in the food and bio cluster, but I've experienced it myself. So my name is Jeppe. I come from a background in business. I've been working as a business developer for more than 25 years. So actually working in the companies that are doing these innovations, and now I am moved into a local cluster, which dovetailed perfectly into what I'm just sharing a presentation in a moment here. Yes, I hope you can see it.
Yes.
That Filippo was saying that in reality, what do you do now? It's a big confusion. There's a lot of money out there, but how do you actually access this, and how do you put it into practice? And I'm here to sort of give you here at the end of the presentation, in the next 15 minutes or so, as give you a bit of a confidence that this can be done. It's not an easy voyage, but it's something that's been done every day by many SMEs and innovators, and also corporate innovators all around Europe. And I'll want to speak a bit about how do we do that in Denmark in food and bio cluster, and give you an example of that. So basically, what you will see is that maybe to understand a bit who we are. In Denmark, Filippo was talking about cluster. What is a cluster? A cluster is, let's say, a private organization. In this case, in Denmark, we have decided, or the government has decided, that they want to support the creation of national clusters. So we were originally actually, as you see on the left here, regional growth environments for agri-tech, for food, all around Denmark. And 5 years ago, the government said, well, we want to help you actually make a national cluster instead of just being regional small clusters. One of the benefits being national is the fact that we're a small country. We have nearly 6 million inhabitants, but we're a very big player within food and agriculture globally. And we really needed the scale to be able to help everyone. So we grew from very small organization of 1, 2, 3, 5 people to a larger organization, which really helps us. The other benefit is that we also have colleagues. So and what happens and I think Milena, your the way Brilliant is set up is and the way you this graphic where you show, well, it all comes from agriculture, but it goes to many different sources. That's what we feel as well. So some of it goes into food and that stays into this cluster, but a lot of things maybe go into buildings or maybe go into life science or maybe go into other parts. And we need this kind of inter-cluster collaboration, and that works really well in Denmark because we have done this. This is not everywhere. So like Filippo was saying, you need to look around in your local community and see, is a cluster there to help me? It often will be, and they're a really good vehicle for you to actually to get to the funding, because most clusters will have some kind of aims, and our aims is sustainable food, but also exploitation of bioresources. So whenever we have the whole chain, we work with the whole chain from the agriculture side and all the way over to the consumer as well. So we need to in this area, there's a lot of innovation potential in the green transition, which we also support, and there's a lot of technological opportunities as well. And all that is something we promote, and we do that taking everybody into account. So we are not an industry association alone. So we, of course, work with companies and with innovators. So innovators can be both in the corporate sense, but also innovators in small SMEs or just people who have an invention. And they, of course, you could go to an industry association and and you could work with that in that context, but that's not what we are, because we are also including the authorities in here. So Milena was also talking about regulation. Many of the innovations need new innovations also within regulations, and authorities also want to help that change as well. And they're part of our ecosystem, as well as the research and education facilities that have this as a purpose. And not least in the blue, you will see we also include in our ecosystem all the funding, so grants, which Filippo was talking about, but also capital, so equity or debt institutions, and it's the mix between these that actually make innovation work. Authorities, also forgot to mention, it's not just local business authorities or food agencies, but it's also something as municipalities, for instance, which often have a much bigger role in innovation than often is appreciated. Again, I want to show you about this. We work in the whole value chain. If you work in food, you are aware that the whole value chain, you think about that every day. So that's not something new. We are a very large cluster by now because we are national. We are 45 people. We have loads of contacts, both nationally and internationally. We, by far, I think, one of the largest ecosystems within food and bioresources in the world. We operate 3 incubators with the startups, helping them grow. And we have a big portfolio of projects. You will see in the end here 275 million. I think it's closer to 300 million now euro in project portfolio. And this is the projects with project portfolio, which both have public donors and private donors. And my responsibility is actually looking after private donors. So I'm very much looking into developing new private backed projects within innovation in the agri-tech sector. And we've been doing this for more than 25 years. That's also the reason the numbers are so big, is because we've been doing this for a very long time. We have a lot of, and we've tried to support all around Europe, also the development of other clusters in this sense. So we are part of a lot of different EU programs. You probably, I think Shaping Bio is also here. Yes, so we're also part of that, but and I won't go into detail into these, but also national projects that have international scope. And we're also a big part of, from the start of Enterprise Europe Network, which is a fantastic network. I have to also put a word in for that, for matchmaking, for trying to find partners all around Europe, but also all around the world. And we help funding. So what we do is we try to, and this is back to what Filippo was saying, is that clusters, we are also here to help members, but also the community, the ecosystem, just have a, here we have the current funding options for Danish companies, and this is something, it's not so easy, like Filippo also was saying, you need some kind of guide to guide you through what can the different funding options do. Is it a voucher? Is it something you just get a grant, or do you have to pay it back? Or, there's a lot of different things, and this is what we do every day. We help members, but also the community as such, to understand what is there, not only from Danish investments, but also international investments, mainly Europe. So over the years, we're curated relations with different donors and capital investors. So what I call donors is more donors for projects, so larger projects, which is more philanthropic, you could say, but private, and but donors that actually want to help, grow the ecosystem. And I'm working very much on that side, especially on the private side, and we're also working that on the public side with the EU and the Horizons and CBEJU projects like Filippo was mentioning. But we also have a curated and by now rather large database of capital investors, and maybe a few words to that. I think what you were saying, Milena, in the start rings true to us. We certainly see that, yes, there is a lot of capital investors out there, and yes, they're not all interested or all very knowledgeable in what we do. And if I when we look at it in practice, I think of these 400 capital investors, which are global, many of them in the EU, but also in the UK and the US, I think what we normally say internally is that out of those 400, maybe only 40 of them really understands agri-tech and the food sector. So agri-tech and food sector is very sexy in a way. It's something that people want to do and capital investors want to look at, but many of them just don't know what they're investing in. So I think matchmaking is extremely important. What Tech Tours does is extremely important. What Filippo also does in his context is extremely important, because what you need to find, you need to matchmake between all these different, I think Filippo was saying also very clearly that, there are different things. There's a ticket size, there's a vertical, there's different things they talk about. But many of them are not very knowledgeable about it. So it's about bridging also the gaps. We try to do that as a cluster. We try to invite them in, a bit like what you also do in Tech Tours, but on a local basis. We try to sort of do some matchmaking. And we also try to, these 40, curate those 40 that really understand us and try to multiply them, try to help them also tell to other VCs what the peculiarities are about our special sector. And one of them is that it can be, at least when you talk about food, is very high capex. So one of the things you didn't say so much about Filippo, but we feel very much is that I certainly know, because I worked for a brewery for many years, and in brewery it's big capex, but it's food. So we're not. It's a bit like, we have nearly the same capex as your biotech pharma kind of thing. A lot of steel, but our margins are very small. We don't sell to the pharma. We sell to a retail chain, and so investments are really difficult in the area, especially in the early stages for companies. It's extremely difficult. So what we're doing is we're trying to help capital investors understand that this is a long-term game, and the increments are maybe not so high, but you can easily, it's easy to get an exit in this area and to get somebody else to invest. So I think we do that a lot. On the project side, our way of working is we have a lot of projects under development right now. We have 37 projects under development inside our ecosystem, listening to innovators and authorities and donors. And what we do is we try to do, we have a collaborative sort of approach with the donors. We pitch it. It's a bit like the same on the capital side in some sense, right? So we try to say, this is here we have a lot of companies that have a good idea, and is somebody interested in pitching this? Maybe we have some funding from the public side, but we need some more funding to make it work from the private side. And my job is to go around pitching that to donors. Fortunately, in Denmark, at least, we have a lot of private project donors. Many of them come from company sources, so have been the foundations that have owned companies or maybe still own companies, and reaching out to them about these kind of things. What they give is grants. So they give grants to. They don't expect a payment in return for them. It's not an investment as such. It's an investment in development. So development of innovations that cannot be covered by the company themselves, and certainly not by public funds. So that's often what we're looking at. It sounds complicated, but in reality, it's relatively easy when you have the right project. And here, for the last minutes here, I will show you one of the projects that we've been lucky enough to put into reality. So it's a lot of words here. You can have a couple of videos that I won't show you, but you can have in the presentation afterwards. You can look at them. But basically, what happens is in Denmark we are our agriculture has put too many nutrients into the ground. And what happens is today we are now looking into recovering them as nature. But especially in the lowlands where it's very soggy, we cannot harvest the lowlands. And if you cannot harvest lowlands, you cannot get the nutrients out of the lowlands. And I, as a layman, I didn't understand, why do you need, I just thought you just put water and everything is fine. No, the problem is if you don't take the nutrients out, it's too nutrients rich, and then the biodiversity does not come back. Then we're only promoting the plants that really love nutrients. And so the idea is probably we will have to harvest over the next 20, 30 years these lowlands that are growing in Denmark. We have to have even more than we've had before. And how do we make a business out of that? Well, in this case, we made a collaboration between industry, between innovators, between our nature agency, University of Copenhagen, and we got funding from a private foundation, OB Jensen, and from a public foundation, National Foundation, to make a business model. So within the 4 years of the project, we actually found a business model where we could harvest and we actually could sell what we harvested. Everybody in the value chain got enough profit to get it running, so it runs without subsidies. Some of it goes to food, but a lot of it goes into building materials in reality, so panels for building materials, because a lot of it is fiber as such, and that's what you see in this picture in the end. So a little demonstration of what you can do when you get everything working together. And I think that's what I had from my side, and I'd love to hear more and to answer some questions that you have any.
Thank you very much, Jeppe, for sharing your experience, because this actually indeed comes to practice, because coming into an ecosystem that tries to combine all those elements. And actually, I did not really understand. Do you actually pitch yourself to investors different proposals? So you are acting a little bit like a middleman.
Exactly. So we're more like, if the company does it themselves and they can do it, they don't need us. But often you need somebody like us to sort of navigate. So we're more like a catalyst, you could say, to make sure that everything comes into place. Sometimes we have a role in the project. In this project, it was like many you probably recognize, we do dissemination. So me actually talking about this project is part of what we do, because we need to have more of it, and we need to have more of these kind of projects.
and it's very interesting because there was actually no business before, so you have created a business out of it. So we see what happens when you have all people in one place, the people you will collaborate with, the research, the funding, everything falls together. So it's perfect. Now, first, let me ask if anybody has a question, a specific question for the speakers. So I'm to something that caught my eye in Milena's presentation regarding the gaps that you mentioned, and this is no other that there needs to be more collaboration between private and public funding.
Yes.
This was a gap really touched enough because we addressed them a little bit differently. Here, Jeppe told us that they try to find different sources to fill in whatever investment is missing. But I would also like to hear from their topic.
Okay. Thank you very much, colleagues, for this. I think it is discussion so far, even though we presented on our own. I wish we had this theater script that we exchanged, because what Filippo said in his presentation would be very important to understand also my presentation, and also what Jeppe said in his presentation. So regarding the public-private partnerships, as Filippo said, different industries within bioeconomy are in different way capital extensive, and especially for those industries that are capital extensive, it is very important to find financing at the later stage of their development. If they want to have, for example, if they need any premises, if they need any reactors, if they need to build any factory, then this growth capital is very much necessary, and it's very often is a very big capital asked, a very big investment asked. For example, some of the investments, especially for premises, might get for Series A up to 50 million, and this is specific for the bioeconomy. And also, investors don't like very much risk. Risk is very well calculated, and if investors consider a technology very risky, or the return not very sure, then they are a little bit conscious, and that is where maybe for growth companies comes this public-private partnership. We're still exploring. We don't have yet, and I don't know whether we'll have at all some recipe that could be universal. But nevertheless, in this is one direction we're exploring to provide our recommendations, is how to de-risk commercialization stage high TRL investments by combining public and private financing. And yeah, this is the direction, actually, the de-risking of this big investment, very often very risky investment. But maybe colleagues will tell more.
Please go ahead, Filippo.
Happy to build on that. Indeed, there is a blending both at structural level, how to combine those two, so at operational level, and it's somehow compatible with the design of the grants, but in practice, you need 500,000, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 10, 20, 25, 50. The more you go up, the more the grant will become lower, either because the so-called funding, the refund rate or the funding rate goes down, or simply because the eligible cost will not cover the total cost. So you need to also have something else to pay for it. And here one has to be a bit careful, because either you go the investor way, you source your investments and you go ahead fast without the grant, or you use the grants and you build your basis, you build a little bit your IP, you build a little bit your balance sheet full with tangible equipment, you become meaningful, tangible, you become something, and then you speak with investors. Or you go for both at the same time, because an investor is needed after or before you win a grant to blend into, or etc., etc. Or there are grants that says, get a grant from us and then investors will come after you because we are a quality label. So there is a lot of different ways to go about it. But I would say you have to innovate, which that being either to launch a new technology or to scale up what you have. So you have a certain amount of either product launches or big investments in your machineries, either new products or new machines or other equivalent situations. Each of these is an investment need. It's also an investment opportunity and a grant opportunity. So every time you're doing something big or you're trying to do something big, you can chase the grant, chase the investors, but you cannot just wake up and say, today I need, because these things take time, 6 to 18 months, if not more. So you have to set up your strategy where you say, for the next 5 years, what am I going to do? Am I going to improve a little bit my field and my factory, or am I going to go big? Or am I going to totally change and pivot? So have a plan ahead, and then you make steps. I want to chase an investor or a grant or both in the next 18 months, for 24 months. So you have to really look ahead, and it's the only way to try to blend. Neither of grants nor investments can be improvised above a certain level of value. Below 100,000, okay, you can improvise, but above that, less so. So I'll say looking ahead for me is the key for blending.
Perfect. And planning also takes some experience sometimes, because especially when you're very new to the field, you don't know where to start, how to plan, who to reach out to. So yeah, good. I think Jeppe, you thumbed up. So basically, you agreed to what has been said already.
Yes, I don't think I have much else to add. It is a this is not theory, it's practice. It really is. And it's something where you need to navigate a lot, and you need to spend a lot of time. And to be honest, I have a fear that, not a fear. I have a knowledge we know already from experience that, innovations unfortunately don't make it just because, people don't have this knowledge and just die out. There's so many companies, we know the statistics that where the innovation don't come out because there's many words about it, call it valley of death or whatever you call it. There's a lot of different, but what happens is you're so excited about making your stuff on every day that you don't really think about planning for the next step, and then suddenly it hits you, and now you have to plan, and then you have to, an application takes 5 months, and and everything gets and things happen, life happens along the way. So we are very conscious about not only guiding but also nudging as an actor within this ecosystem, as a cluster. We are often very close to some of these companies, and we really try to nudge them and to make them sort of look up and ahead, because private and public money go together, and I think there's more and more focus today than ever before that private money needs to come into play here, and And I think what I'm hearing when I'm going out is that, and that's really interesting. Maybe if we make this analysis, Shaping Bio has made Milena now. Maybe we make it in a few years' time. Hopefully, we will see that the private sector will be more active in this area, because we really need to step up, and certainly when you compare Denmark, or sorry, Europe as such as to others. I also recognize what you were saying, Milena, that the later stage investments is not so easy to find in Europe. It's often the big numbers are much easier to go to the UK or to the US, to get them. But then I was in Boston and North Carolina in January, and they were very envious about our system, because there is no funding to find for small investments, right? So everything, the whole Horizon area, the whole, and national governments looking at SMEs, and so you don't have that in the US. It's very big, it's a few very big pockets that really are thrown around over there, and the innovations die very early in the US. So I think also when you're a private company, you're looking at this agnostically. And if you look at it from a theoretical point of view, it may be a good idea to stay in Europe until you're mature. But then once you get above that, maybe it's a good idea also to look abroad. Unfortunately.
Interesting point, because where you source your money from matters, it looks like. Okay. And I guess that there are different systems for funding also in the US. So again, different complexities, different things to go through. Yes, very, very interesting. And one other thing that I wanted to ask, if there are no questions from the participants, I did not see any hands raised so far. Okay, another thing that was mentioned is that, sometimes sometimes, we reach out to get our money because we're interested for that, but also funding bodies are not very well informed about the sector. And this is a real, struggle to get them convinced about what are the pros, what are the cons, what they should look for. It's a huge navigating field. Any comment on this, on how we could, I guess it would come, with some recommendations probably for how to educate perhaps also the funds.
If I may start.
Sure.
Of course, during my short presentation, we couldn't explore all aspects of our study, but one curious thing was that during the interviews with both investors and SMEs, and this is also in the study, this is reflected, that investors and companies would like to see those, especially the public funding bodies, to be more proactive, to promote more what is available as funding. At the same time, SMEs and investors recognizing that this is public money, it shouldn't be freely. It shouldn't be easy to get. And of course, there should be some value in exchange for that public money. But nevertheless, they recommended that the public funding bodies should be more proactive in promoting the options for SMEs. Because imagine you're a company that just starts in their journey, and how do I know if there is this huge program, 95 billion euros, Horizon Europe? How do I know how to apply? How do I find the correct, the most suitable for me call for proposals? We made in August last year, we made a small experiment. I put myself in the shoes of a company that is doing with fermentation. Fermentation is not a niche technology. Fermentation is actually quite a broad, has quite a broad spectrum of technologies, and it should be popular. So I put in Horizon Europe search keyword fermentation, and no call for proposals came out. No, none. But maybe there are calls for proposals for fermentation technologies. Maybe there are many, maybe there are hundreds. But how does the company navigate through this landscape? And of course, this also refers to private funding.
Thank you, Milena. Filippo, you wanted to comment on that?
Yes. One thing that is, so every single funding body, they do, of course, have in the KPI to promote their programs, and I'm sure they have their list of info days, and I'm sure also Milena is not saying that they're not promoting, but perhaps one thing that could be handy is, and I've seen it done recently in the textile sector, and I was quite pleased, is one thing that is not done much is joint promotion of different funding programs toward a specific sector, because ultimately life program promotion, CB program promotion, cluster 6 promotion, of course they will do it, they have to do it, they will do it, but you go there if you already know it exists or you heard about it. Instead, public funding for agri-food sector, one representative of the CBE, one of the life, and one of cluster 6. It happens from time to time, but I don't see that done much. So you know that you are in the agri-food, you know that you're interested in public funding, let's go at the place that is done, all the options are there. And I've seen it done recently by the textile people. They did it with the CBE and with another funding body that exists, but I didn't even think about much about them. That I did not think too many times about them before. And I said, oh, exactly, of course, this is relevant for textile. So it was the European Space Agency, for example, because textile innovation is relevant also for space, right? So agri-food can do the same, and others. So sector-specific event at European or national level with the different options. At the end of the day, solve different ways to solve the need. That's a user-centric approach to promote the public funding as opposed to a offer-centric. And although often so, funding body likes to not talk together with their colleagues. They like to do their own things on their own, and but with effort it can be done. And this type of projects and this type of webinar are somehow satisfying that need. But it would be nice if directly the funding bodies will come together or be helped to come together to do so.
Thank you very much, Filippo. And I see a hand from Vincent, just to let you know that it's already 11:30 and Milena will be able to be with us only for a very short time if she doesn't need to leave already. So we will take this final question and then we will close if you're okay. Vincent, please go ahead. I see that you're muted. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Very interesting conversations here. Just the voice of small companies in shaping these calls, and also, we are working with traditional companies to try and bring to upgrade and to future-proof a lot of traditional agri-food companies. What are your thoughts on kind of like getting more soundings from non-traditional players, non-innovative players, and also smaller companies? How, maybe you can walk us through the various different strategies in which our voice can be heard to help shape these forthcoming calls. Thank you.
Go ahead, Filippo. I see
So
your hand.
if hi Vincent, nice seeing you. So if the question is how to help or strategies for specific players to help shaping the text and the distribution of the text and the split of the budget of fundings before it's issued. So how to lobby and advocate for certain things to be sponsored more. Is that the question? Yeah, good. So, well, it depends a little bit on the funding body specifically, and there are some funding bodies that are actually more structured, well, differently structured than others. For example, the CBEJU, there is a European Commission and a private club, and anybody can be a member of that private club, and then you are in. Now, being a member of that private club is economically and time consuming. So what it's also possible is to be members of intermediary organization, which are then member of that, and then go and advocate for you. So for example, in the case of joint undertaking, we ourselves are a member and can represent our startups there. And we go once every 2-3 months to participate in a structured process that define the text of the call. And it's a structured process. For others, for example, Cluster 6, it is also structured, but you cannot just become a member of a club and officially, and then there you are in. It's a bit more complicated. There are guidelines about it, but they're not too much known to me. And personally, I'm not directly involved into those, but academics, some academics know their way around it. But there are also some journalists complaining about the fact that that process is not too transparent. So if you check on Science Business, they will often complain about that the Horizon Cluster 6 and the other clusters are not transparently advocated around. So there are some complaints there. So it depends, but there are ways. Some are more clear, some are less clear. For the CB, for me, that's the best practice. But it's simpler because it's a joint undertaking. Public part, you don't touch. Private part, you can be a member and you can go. Science Business has interesting considerations about that, but they recently became a paid magazine, so you won't need to ask to pay the small subscription there, but I'm happy to have a conversation that there if that helps.
And if I may add to Filippo's, we came across a very interesting case while we were doing the research. It didn't end up in best practice, but nevertheless, I think this may answer your question. For example, there is this something in between cluster, private investor that combines a few companies, not a few, many companies, farmers, including traditional farmers. And if any of their member needs any technology, any new tech, this cluster, this body negotiates with the owner of that technology, usually at early stage, and they even sometimes invest in that new technology. So their member or members, whoever need that technological solution, they can take advantage on it. And I think this is a very interesting collaboration between traditional industries and tech sector.
Thank you. Jeppe?
Yes, sorry, thank you, Vincent, for that question. It was great. I was actually going to do something similar to Milena, say that there are also private ways of doing it, right? So you can go through these. I know it's a bit of a pain. I've been working in several large companies, corporate companies, but don't take no for an answer sometimes, because you can't find often pockets where they want to do it. If you just attach it to the right budget within the corporate side, you probably have tried this yourself. But I will also say again, what has surprised me over the past 6 months only, and maybe a year or so, is that private foundations, so either family foundations or others, are sometimes much more accessible. So being locally where you are, try and figure out where the money is, the big private money is. That's surprisingly good venue in reality. I think it's totally overseen and certainly not registered by Shaping Bio because it's not recorded anywhere. So there's a big black, I think you said recorded many times, Milena. There's a big sort of black area or blind angle here is everything that is not recorded. And a lot of the things that are not recorded in here are specifically within family-owned foundations. We're looking a lot into that, and we have loads of examples that it really works. But it's, and that's a bit more, it becomes a bit more anecdotal. How do you find them? How do you get in touch with them? Once you do, it's actually, once you go into that area, they know each other. quite quickly. So over the past 6 months, I've been amazed what has come up for our members in that area. So just a little maybe left field sort of suggestion at the end.
Just maybe later, because this is a webinar and his recording is going to be published, I wouldn't like this to sound like an advertisement. That is why later through Anastasia, I can provide you with the name of that organization that I was just talking about, Vincent.
Yes, I would highly encourage connections after the webinar. And also through the presentations, you can always find the email to the speakers and you can reach out directly and continue the discussion there. So if there are no more questions, I would just shortly share my screen and then close the webinar. First of all, big thanks to the speakers for their availability and their insights and discussion is truly valuable. And even though it was not big participation, I really hope that more people will access it through our website because this is going to be published, the recording. So I would just like to bring your attention to our next training, which will be about the role of governance and stakeholder engagement in building an effective bioeconomy, where we will try to share our best experience on how collaboration can make the best out of everything. It will be on the 27th of March, and you're more welcome to join. I will share the link for the participation through, a greeting email that you will receive the webinar. And of course, there's an ongoing opportunity. If you want to engage with the advisory board of farmers, you can always apply and keep in touch with the project, with us, and continue with more interesting discussions there. So this is how you can engage with us further. And I will happily close the webinar and thank you all for your participation today. And I really hope that I will see you next time.